presentation for my personal inquiry project. For some of you who may not know, my project revolves around my PhD work, which is related to bibliotherapy using books as a part of a school counseling program. This year I was trying to determine the value of adding journaling or creative writing to a school counseling group that was reading a shared book. Like last year, this project dovetails beautifully with my overall PhD work, and that is teaching school counseling students how to integrate bibliotherapeutic techniques into their counseling practice. So once again, I was grateful for the opportunity this summer to dive into this work and have a project or a program that would help me overall with my PhD. Throughout this project, I was looking at a variety of things. I had 3 questions initially. What grade levels are best served with using writing or journaling in combination with their reading to process their emotional trauma? How can practicing school counselors partner with librarians and English teachers to implement creative writing and journaling into their practice? And then what books work best in combination with our reading and writing structure? So as the summer progressed, I realized that this class and the other class that I was taking actually were working together, and they were perfect complements for one another. And in that class, I was learning how to teach creative writing to students. So that gave me amazing resources that I could use for this. And as a part of that class, I had to create an e-portfolio. So that was the reason for me using my e-portfolio as a way to present my work for this class as well. As a part of this process, I started focusing on questions 1 and 3. So I began zeroing in on the grade levels that I wanted to focus on and finding books that work in combination with reading and writing. And so since I was working in my other class on high school creative writing classes, I decided to make my focus middle school and high school. And so I was looking for books that were related to topics that you might see in a school counseling group, and finally landed on bullying as one that you would see at a middle school or high school level, and then working with prompts. So my entire project is really dealing with how to integrate reading books and then writing and journaling through that process, so that by the end of the group, the students I'm working with would have the ability to rewrite the end of their story. That if they were a bully themselves, that they didn't have to see themselves as a bully for the rest of their lives, or if they had been a victim of bullying, that they didn't have to see themselves as a victim, that they had the opportunity to rewrite that and to work through that as part of a school counseling group. Like many of you, I used the Alberta model for my inquiry process. It's an easy process to use, and it helped me go back and forth between the different times of researching, going back, tweaking. So I journaled about that, and I really did enjoy the process of researching and finding the pieces that I needed. So I would love to share with you a little bit about my website, my e-portfolio, and the process of putting that together and what I have available. So our focus really is preparing for a journaling prompt, how to create that, how to revise that. And so in here I have a link to creative writing resources, which takes us to this page. And then counselors, students, teachers can come in here and look at how to integrate creative writing and journaling into their programs. So on the prepare, what I have here are, for example, how to get started. If a school counselor isn't really sure how to get going with this, for example, has different writing prompts that you can go to. One of my best resources, though, was this link about writing as therapy for teachers and students. And It's a great way to encourage your teachers and your students to journal. And this is just a blog post about the importance of that and getting that going, and how a teacher found that if she journaled along with her class, it made a difference for everybody. So that's one of my resources that I was able to find. And then also just a different writing prompts about yourself, getting students used to writing about themselves, because sometimes their stories are hard to tell. So I have links for all of those. My favorite piece here was creating a writing prompt. So for a high school student, the book I was using was Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry by Joya Goffney. And I put together a prompt that here is how to stand up to a bully, rewriting your bullying story through creative nonfiction or a short story. Basically, it takes them through the story where she finally stands up to her friends who she has discovered have been bullying her through anonymous social medias accounts. And at the end of the book, she says, "Cowards will do anything to feel safe, to feel in control. I used to be a coward too, but the first brave thing I did was ever did was to stop being your friend." And so I then ask the students to think back to a time when they were teased or bullied, and to write a story about that event where the person being bullied comes back with a line or a reaction like the main character, Quinn. And they have the choice to do that as a nonfiction piece where it actually happened to them, or a short story based on an event. And so just gives them some guidelines about that. But that was one of my favorite pieces. For middle schools, I did Starfish by Lisa Phipps, which is a book that I read this summer as part of my volume reading. And if you haven't read that book, it is about bullying, but there also are some things that are happening at home that make Ellie not feel as comfortable at home as she should be. And this book is written in poems, really. And so one of the things that she says is, "I deserve to be seen, to be noticed, to be heard, to be treated like a human. I starfish. There's plenty of room for each and every one of us in the world." And so this is, again, a writing prompt. And at this point, I asked them to be Ellie's friend, which goes along with some of the research that I found that says when you're asking students to journal, to have them look at a different perspective to their situation. And so in this case, I asked them to be Ellie's friend and asked them what they might do to help her with the bullying that's going on. And again, they can be very creative in however they want to present that. And then in here, I have some writing prompts that whoever comes to this site might want to try, and just a way to get some inspiration and to get started. So that's the prepare section. The create is just about getting started, how to start writing. Lots of different websites to come into, how to get going, exercises for adults and for students, and tips from authors. I did create a poetry prompt from Amanda Gorman's poem called The Miracle of Morning. And this was actually a poem that she wrote at the cusp of the COVID-19 shutdown, and she was trying to find the positive things that were happening in her world. And so at the end of this, I ask the students who might be in a situation where they need to find some positive pieces in their life to write a poem that looks at the good side of a bad situation. And again, it can be anything. It's not about it being perfect. It's about the student having the opportunity to share their story and to find the positive pieces of their life. And then this is my own work. So in my other class, we had to write just as our students might write. And so in here, I have my different papers and some short story poem pieces as a part of that. And then finally, revising. We talked a lot about revisioning our work, just like I would ask my students in counseling to revision their lives. We talk about revising. And so this is just the importance of doing that. And then in here I have my own revision work that you can look at and see where I started, and then where I ended with that. So how I got from a story started knowing Emma to changing it to plot twist. And then these are just quotes from authors about why you should revise. My favorite part, and the one that's most applicable to this work, is just for school counselors, which is a way for school counselors now to integrate using bibliotherapy techniques with poetry and stories that they might have. And so I have different books called, here's one, Harry Potter Therapy, which is a book that uses obviously the Harry Potter books to kind of take a child through a therapeutic process. The Children Who Lived is also based on the Harry Potter series, but these are also, this one, the poetry and story therapy and the storytelling, are activities and writing prompts specifically based on readings and other books that you might share with your students. And so some great resources here for school counselors. So that was my personal inquiry project, was to put together this website and to have some resources available, not just for myself, but any other school counselor who might need this, or a teacher or a librarian who might want to integrate creative writing into whatever project that they're doing. On this homepage, I do also have publishing and writing advice, a link to the Poetry Foundation, and then some just advice and other communities that might be available for creative writers. So it's a great project and a way for me to develop my e-portfolio even more, and to tweak it to have resources that I find helpful, but hopefully some other people find helpful too. So if you have any questions or would like to see the portfolio, I'm happy to share that link with you. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen.